Today, we're joined by the powerhouse in personal growth, Nada Nasserdeen. She's the founder and CEO of Rise Up For You, a TEDx speaker, and an author of The Confidence Builder. After years as a performer and educator, Nada turned her life's mission into helping people rise beyond self-doubt, lead with purpose, and build unshakable confidence from the inside out. Her work has impacted thousands across the world, proving that confidence isn't still you fake it till you make it, but it's a truth you build. Nada, welcome to #Clockedin. We're so grateful to have you here. The first question is, before we talk about your framework or your success, I want to start with this. Can you take us back to a moment that you lost confidence and what it took to rebuild it?
Oh, that's a really good question. A moment where I lost confidence. Okay, this might sound really silly, but I remember losing confidence when I was like 16 years old. Okay, so I'm going all the way back to high school. And I auditioned for the cheer squad. I really wanted to be a cheerleader in high school. And so I practiced, I worked really, really hard. And my friends, all of my friends and I auditioned to be on the cheer squad, and every single friend made it except for me. And I was devastated in high school. I ran home, I was crying, and I was super dramatic, and I was like questioning my existence and God. And I remember my mom like yelling at me and being like, "Don't you ever question God, ever. Like whatever's meant to be is meant to be." So I lost a little bit of confidence as a 16-year-old, and I was also like embarrassed that my friends made the team and I didn't. But then you know what? I started practicing again over and over and over again. And then the following year, I made the varsity team. And then I made the varsity team again after that. And I was one of the main choreographers. And I ended up being like one of the top cheerleaders on the squad.
This is like the Michael Jordan story. Like, no, but it's true because in high school, people are so, why did I not get this right away? And we don't understand that the work that's required to actually get there.
Yep.
And so much of the time we have to put in so much intentional work and we just miss that.
Yeah. 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 So that's a moment that I can remember. I would say in my adulthood, I've been pretty confident, pretty consistent with the belief that I have about myself as a person and as a woman.
How do you think you develop that? Because when I see you carry, like, I see you talk to the mic, confidence is there. You go on stages, you're talking, you're impacting thousands of lives. There's
Mhm.
probably a lot of people listening to this that are, hey, this is even scary. I can't even post a TikTok. What do you
Yeah.
mean you're going
Yeah.
on there on stage? It's scary. How do
Yeah.
you handle that?
Well, honestly, a lot of it stems from childhood, like most of it does. And so it's so important to, if you're a parent listening, it's important for you to understand that the second you have a child or a baby or whatever, you are creating their belief system, right? Like the first 15, 16 years of their life, their belief system and their thoughts about themselves stem from the environment that they're around. So that's their parents, that's their siblings, their teachers. My parents, like I always say that the greatest gift from God was my parents. Like, you know how sometimes your parents will be like, "Oh, our greatest gift was our babies that, we gave birth to." But for me as a daughter, I feel like my greatest gift was that I was born to two most amazing parents, that there was no type of abuse in any way, shape, or form. They were the opposite. They were really good at teaching my brothers and I soft skills. Like they were really good at
Really?
teaching us resilience and working hard and self-confidence. So like if I put myself down in any way, it was like my mom had these magnificent ears. She could be across the house and I would say something under my breath about myself and she would like come running, "Don't you dare talk about yourself that way." And like, so that's how we were raised. And a good portion of my self-worth and my confidence and the belief that I have in myself, same as my brothers, they have the same amount of confidence as I do. It stemmed from childhood. And so the reason why that's important is because as you get older, people put you down, right? You go your whole life, people make fun of you, they put you down, they say you can't. And because we had that foundation, when somebody said to us, like, "You can't do that," we would question it. We'd be like, "I can't, what do you mean I can't do that? How do you know I can't do it?" Like, instead of most people would be like, maybe you're right. And they would take that belief as their own. My brothers and I were like, "Yeah, I don't know if that's true. My parents taught us the opposite." So
Well,
that's where I learned most of it.
well, I think that's incredible because you start to sit there and realize that you create your own confidence,
Yeah.
meaning that the more you practice, it's an internal game. It's not so much external validation. And the amount of people that sit there and go, I got support, like someone told me great job. That's the highlight of my day. No, I told myself great job. That's the highlight of my day. I mean,
100%. Yeah.
because it happens to the best of us. It really is. So with Rise Up for You, you have multiple different pillars. Some of
Yeah.
it's through confidence, some of it's through other pillars. Tell us about how did you even come up with these and how did this get started and where did this all begin?
Yeah, so our goal is to really support organizations, leaders, and entrepreneurs to be the top 10%, period. Not just in work, but just like as a whole. So for an organization, that would mean like the culture, right? Like, how do we become the top 10% as an organization with our team, with our culture, with, impact? And then as an individual, how do we become a top 10% person in life? Meaning that I truly believe you can have it all, right? So happy life, healthy life, sexy life, romantic life, you're making an impact and all the pieces just feel great. And the question always is, well, what are the skills that help you do that? So, like, how do you become a top 10% company or person? What are the skills that actually allow you to become successful in every aspect? And so, through all of our research and all of our experience, it's come down to four major soft skills. The first one being self-confidence, and I could dive, into each of them.
Yeah,
The second
yeah.
one,
Well,
yeah,
first off, yeah. Before we dive into that, I just want everyone to realize what Nada did there, where she literally sat there and asked herself an empowering question of how do we become the top 10%? Who's asking these questions? They're just like, what am I having for dinner? You feel the difference there? And I just
sure.
want you guys to realize that the better questions you ask, so like really realize how valuable this is. Yeah, keep going.
Yeah, and I just want to add to that. It's how do you become the top 10% as a whole human being, not in just your work, because we know,
Yes.
Jordan, we know a lot of people that are super successful at work. They make
Yes.
a ton of money. They have a great job, but their relationships suck. They're not healthy. They don't really enjoy life. They're in a ton of debt. And so it's not about being successful like in a silo. It's like as a whole person,
Human.
how do I build just a freaking amazing life and what skills do I need? And so that first one is self-confidence. The second one is emotional and social intelligence. The third one is being a transformational leader versus being transactional. And then the last one, which is the hardest, is influential communication. So how do I influence people to take action when I communicate? How do I get them to have movement? And so those four pillars are what we call the Rise Power Up framework. And this is what we use with companies and entrepreneurs all over the world, everything from Google to like a local nonprofit.
I love that. I love that because it starts to get you to think differently. Like
Mhm.
right now, I'm actually on a an interesting journey. So when I say that, I mean, so last year we ended up, me and my wife, we traveled for 7 weeks in
Yep.
Europe. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then, so now we're here again. Like, I'm actually in Italy right now
I
while
love
we're
that.
having this conversation. But as you're describing it, I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, I did have to have self-confidence to go against the grain. Everyone's like, this doesn't make sense. Like, how are you going for that long? What are you talking about? What about the time zones? Like, so you have to have the self-confidence yourself. I'll figure it out. Good. And then you start to look at these different things where you have to have these different soft skills to be able to just even create this experience. Because a
Yeah.
lot of the time, no one's going to help you. It's like, go figure it out on your own, and you have to be empowered enough to take action on that.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Absolutely. 100% is the truth. And I always say, like, if you don't start to create these skills and if you don't start creating a belief system that serves you, somebody else is going to give you a belief system that's going to sabotage you. And so you got to, right? Like you had people that are like, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? And that's because that's their belief. And so they're like, their belief they project onto you. And so you have to be wise enough to say, no, I have my own structure, I have my own belief system, and this belongs to me. And thank you for your thoughts, but those aren't mine.
yes, and the funny thing is, everyone thinks you have to agree with them, but that's not true. Like the way you answered that, where it's thank you, that's not for me, that's okay. And
Yeah.
that's going to happen with your family, your relationships, everybody, because you have to have become confident in who you are.
Yeah.
because the majority of the time we don't even know who we are.
Yeah.
So how do we go through this self-discovery? How do we figure out these beliefs that we start to have about ourselves? Because you start to realize that a lot of people, it's not really that. It's just these are the different opportunities that came up for them, and they're like, okay, cool, I like that. But what if someone's sitting there and they go, I need a change. Like I need something different.
It's a really good question. So it depends where you want to start. So like it depends if you're an entrepreneur wanting to build a business or if you're in corporate and you're trying to climb the career ladder. But I always say like the very first step is to figure out like what you want. And you'd be surprised, Jordan, how many people don't just sit down and map out their ideal life. And mapping out your ideal life without self-doubt. Like how many times have you been with the client and you map out like what do you want in your life and they start talking and then they say, "Oh, but I don't know if I can do that," or and they start like sabotaging their own like dream life, right? All the time.
It happens. I do, yeah. So with Edwards Consulting, we start off with every new client, we start off with a 5-year vision.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, let me pretend that I'm calling you in 5 years and you're going to tell me how awesome your life is. Let me hear it. And so a lot of the time it's like it might be like mild stuff where it's like, no, let's really reach. Like, let's go crazy. And the reason I say that is because a lot of us restrict ourselves. Like if I ask you for a 1-year goal and then a year and then like a week later I ask you for a 5-year goal, you'll say the same goal. Because most people don't even realize the difference of the length of time because we can't
Yeah.
conceptualize it.
Yeah.
So it happens all the time.
Yeah.
And it's like we just don't have that belief of like, hey, no, you could do this. Like what would be crazy? Like, let's go
Yeah.
wild here. And you start
Yeah,
to see it.
exactly. So I have a framework that I use, right? And you can use this on a micro level, meaning if you just like have like a quick 90-day goal, and then you can also use it on a macro level. So the first thing I ask is like, what do you want? What do you want in your life? And don't have any filter on it. Don't have any self-doubt. Just like ideally, what do you want? Don't worry about the how and if you can, just like, what do you want? Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing is why do you want it? Why is this important to you? Because Jordan, you and I both know that starting is super easy. Anybody can start. But showing up and staying in the game, that's where the hard difficulty comes in, right? That's where 90% of businesses fail because anyone could do a startup, but after 3 to 5 years most of them fail because it really takes the top 10% that show up consistently that stay in the game. So that second question is why do you want this life, whatever it is? If you say, in 5 years I want to be a millionaire and I want to be married and I want to be living on a lake and have this, awesome. Why? Like what does that mean for you? And what will it feel like when you get there? So that's the second question. The third question is probably the most important. It's like, now how are we going to get there? What are the action steps that are smart, right? We use SMART goals because we need specificity. What are the action steps that we need to start taking to get there? So, for example, if you want to build a business but you're still in corporate, okay, well, what are some of the steps that we need to take to transition from corporate to start building your own business? What does that look like? And start creating that action plan. The fourth one, which the last two are really important for me, is who's going to help you get there. So is it your spouse? Is it a mentor? Do you need to hire a coach? Like who are the people that you need to surround yourself with that are going to help you build that ideal life and support you on that journey? And the last one is my favorite. What do you have to say no to in order to make it happen? Because so many times we get derailed. We get derailed by substance abuse, crappy food, going to bed late, Netflix binges, people that are toxic in our life, negative beliefs, all the excuses. Like we get derailed and 2 years goes by and you're like, "Oh, I wanted to write that book. It was on my list and I never did because of all these things that took you away from it." Most recently, there's been a lot on social media about the signal versus the noise. That's basically the same thing, right? So what is the signal? What is that thing, the 2 or 3 things that you got to do every day that you say yes to? And then the noise is what you're like, no, absolutely not. Don't even bring it near me, non-negotiables. So that last question is, what do you have to say no to in order to reach your success?
Yeah, I think that's so powerful because the majority of the time, and no, I'm smiling because I do this podcast. Like one of the podcasts I do is like a 5-minute Friday where it's a quick tip, and it was just about this: do less, do less of the all the stuff. Why? Because we're doing too many things.
Yeah.
There's too many times where we're going in a million different directions. And if you don't have like a manager or an employee or someone to actually take control of that, you can't do that. You
Yeah.
can't do a lot of these activities. So that last question of what is it that you're going to say no to? And that might be your fantasy football league. That might be other business opportunities. That might even be some family time during the week,
Yeah.
whatever it may be, or Saturday mornings, or whatever you want to do. But you have to be ready to commit and put in those actions. Because when I think of building a business or building skill sets or any of these, I think of them all as muscles, where it's like
100%.
the more we work it out, the
That's right.
better you get at it.
That's right. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, and it's something that a lot of us are like, what do we do? I don't know what to do next. How does this work? And it's like, if you have that person to help you with that, it makes a world of difference. And it
Yeah.
really does.
Well, and I think that most people never reach where they want to reach because they don't carve out the time to
Yes.
map it out and to commit to themselves. And like the reality is some of the most successful people have like 10 journals like me, right? Like I have a planner, I have my Google Calendar, I have a spreadsheet. And so like every week I'm like, okay, what am I focusing on? What's my intent? What are my non-negotiables? And then if I get 80% of it done, I'm like, great, good job, Netta. You got 80% of it. And when I plan my week, I don't only plan work, I plan my health. I plan, okay, I'm going to work out at Monday, 6 a.m. Tuesday, I have really early meetings. So therefore, I'm going to work out at 5 p.m. after work. I plan what I'm going to make the kids. I plan like the date nights with my husband. I plan all of it because I do believe you can have it all. But if you want to have it all, like you have to be intentional. It doesn't just like
Su-
happen. You know what I mean?
Super intentional.
Yeah.
No, because you're absolutely right. And it's whatever is on your calendar, you're going to prioritize. So
Yeah.
it's funny when people sit there and they're just like, "Oh, I waited for my friend to text me." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Like, like I've had stuff going on because the thing is, like, if you don't have a plan or an objective or a stuff, like, you're not just going to roll out of bed and end up in the gym. It doesn't
No,
work that way.
doesn't work that way.
You got to have the bigger goal of like, "Hey, I actually want to live to 105," and you're like, "105?
Yeah.
You got to see these people in Italy. They
Yeah.
are like 90 years old, like
It's a
thin.
blue zone. You have a blue zone
Yeah,
there.
we're, I feel it. We're going up the Stairmaster, which is
Yeah.
just a hill to the place that
Yeah.
we're staying. I'm like, this is crazy. But
Yeah.
my point being here is that you just realize that there's so many different ways to live, and there's so many different ways of doing this. So for
Yeah.
you, how often do you like reevaluate? Hey, am I going on the path I want to go? Do I want to think about this differently? Is this important to me? Because I feel like that's a big challenge that people have as well.
I do it so for sure I do it twice a year. So I do it every July and I do it every December. So I have a like a tradition with myself on December 31st before I ring in the new year, I'll sneak away by myself. Or last year my husband and I did it because I'm married now, right? And I believe when we first met I
Congratulations.
wasn't. Thank
Yeah.
you. And so every December 31st, I'll reassess the 6 pillars of life. So my self-worth, my career, my romantic life, my health, the relationships that I have in my life that are not romantic, and then my money pillar. So I'll assess that in December and I'll put, okay, where am I at? I'll score myself 1 through 10. And then I'll make my goals for the next year. Like, okay, I have a 7 in health. Well, I don't want a 7 in health. So what are my goals? Why did I put a 7 and where do I want to be? And I'll map that out. And then in July, I'll bring it back out and I'm like, okay, I put this as my goal for this year. Where am I? Did I forget about it? Did I start? Am I hitting it? Am I on the right path? So that's what I do. And then I also do it if I feel like things are hitting the fan. Like if something drastic happened in the economy or society or with our client, and I feel like things are falling apart, then I'll like regroup and reassess. It's like, okay, what's happening? Why are things not working? And that might happen maybe once a year, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that because it just shows how intentional you are. And that's what's missed by so many people. So I just want the audience to realize that this intentionality it's not that hard. It's not that many more hours. It's not anything extra. It's just these little micro decisions each and every day going, hey, I'm gonna get a little closer to my goal. Hey, I'm gonna go and try to build this. And if you think about the health pillar, maybe it's like, hey, maybe I need to pick up a new sport, or maybe I have to go do a challenge, or maybe I have to do this. And you start to think about it a little bit differently because it causes you to think differently. So,
Uh,
why do you think a lot of high achievers, you brought up self-worth as your first pillar. So, why do you think a lot of high achievers struggle with that?
Um, well, it's funny that you mentioned that because oftentimes high achievers struggle with self-worth, which is why they tend to overcompensate to achieve more. Does that make
Yes.
sense? So they make up for it in their career, but their relationships, their romantic life, their community, like
Yeah, it's
reputation might struggle. But I know a lot of people that have like very little self-confidence, but because they have very little self-confidence, they're very aggressive and they overcompensate to like prove their worth, which helps them hit the goals, right? They become
yeah.
like very high performing. And so a lot of it is overcompensation. They never feel enough. And so they're constantly trying to achieve the next thing, which brings them success, like let's say in their career. But even when they get there, I mean, Jordan, you know people like this, and I know a lot of people like this in the entrepreneurial space. They have achieved so much flipping, like so many accomplishments. It's amazing. And you talk to them and they don't feel enough. They're like, I'm not doing anything with my life. And you're like, what? What are you talking about? And so a lot of it is overcompensation.
Yeah. No, and it becomes very challenging, especially I think in business, you're very incentivized to go get more clients, get more employees, grow bigger and bigger and bigger. And then in your personal life, you want to like keep it very simple. Like it's very challenging to do both because the things that help you in business do not help you in your personal life. Like you want to have deep, I mean, a little bit. I mean, what do you
Yeah.
think?
I think that it depends.
I could be wrong about it. What do you think?
I think it depends what your values are and what success means to you in life. So for me, some people build businesses because they want to make a lot of money. And then some people build businesses because they want freedom, flexibility, and they want to build a life that they truly feel proud of, like in every aspect.
Yeah.
And so, like for me, I'm the latter. Like, I
Yeah.
love money, don't get me wrong. But I didn't start becoming an entrepreneur because I wanted money and I was hungry. I became an entrepreneur and built a business because I wanted to build something that made an impact, that made money, that also allowed me to have freedom and flexibility and take care of my health and like be a present parent and be a wife and not feel like I was only a career being versus a whole human being, right? So I think it depends what your values are. And so for me, I work really, really hard. I'm very driven, but I am also confident enough to like understand that like me as a person is not contingent upon my business. Like God forbid if Rise Up for You fell apart tomorrow, I'd be like, all right, I'll just rebuild. I'll start over. And I think that a lot of people miss that element.
I love that because the amount of people that you ask, hey, who are you? I literally I've done a coaching where I went to everyone in the group and I said, who are you? Without describing your job title, and they're like,
They can't answer.
yeah, they go, well, I'm in this profession, and I'm like, I asked you to just, and that person who said that was like a marathon runner. They did amazing things, and I was like,
Yeah,
how do you not see this? Like, how do you
yeah,
not see that you're way more than your job?
exactly.
Way
Exactly.
more than this. They don't reevaluate that identity, and I'm like,
Mhm.
this is
Mm-mm.
such a travesty. So, how do you how do you use that freedom? How do you think about that freedom? Just to give the audience an example of like, wow, that's a token of possibility.
Well,
Like,
like,
yeah,
yeah, I use freedom. So, like, don't get me wrong. I work really, really hard, but I worked hard so that I can make the choice to do something else if I needed to. So, I'll give you an example. Yesterday was a Monday. I worked really, really hard, but my puppy was sick and was vomiting all over the place, and I had to take 4 hours away from work to go do that, and that's fine, right? So, I had that freedom to do that. Um, I have a husband that I just got married to like almost a year ago. And so now I go back and forth between two locations because I have the freedom to do that because I built a business that can be done all over the world, right? Where some people are stuck to their city because it's like, well, I go to work. This is what I do. That I have to go into this headquarter to this office. And so like I have freedom and flexibility at my fingertips that if I need it, I can use it, right? Currently right now, my kids, I now have kids. So when I got married, I also became a mom at the same time. And their teachers are on strike. So all of the kids, almost 700,000 kids in this region aren't going to school. They just
No way.
we got
Really?
a we got a message that said don't send your kids to school. There's no teachers, and it could last for 2 months. They're saying it could be like 2 months of a strike. And so because I work from home and I have flexibility, this morning I was able to shift my schedule and I taught the kids for 3 hours. I'm like, oh, you're not sleeping in. Wake up. They woke up just as if they were going to school, and I taught them 3 hours of curriculum. I had that freedom and flexibility. And so like it's about creating something that again allows you to adapt as you need to, where unfortunately so many people they just feel stuck. They're like, what do I do? A lot of people are stressed here because they haven't built that freedom and flexibility, and now they have kids at home and they don't know what to do with them.
Yes, and it's years of compounding.
Oh
So when I
yeah.
say that, it's usually the business, yes, it's creating an incredible business, but also it's the habits with the finances. You brought up finances as a pillar. So
Yeah.
what are some tips that people could take? Because I know we're at like all-time highs in credit card usage and all this
Yeah.
kind of stuff, and it's very concerning. But like if you're financially feel fit, like fit financially, then you make better decisions. So what are some of those tips or tricks that you might use for your
Yeah.
life to be able to do all this stuff?
Yeah, and I'm gonna share one thing and then come back to the finances. When I started, my point is that when I started building this business, 6 years ago, I sat and asked myself exactly what we just talked about. What do you want? Why do you want it? What are the values? And when I started the business, I said like, I want to be able to be a mom and a wife and travel and have that freedom and flexibility. And so from day one of building this company, I built it so that now today, 6 years later, I can enjoy what I wanted to build, right? I can enjoy the fruits of my labor, which again is not necessarily the money. Anybody that runs a business that has employees knows that money fluctuates. Like there's
Yeah.
months where it's like, oh my gosh, I've never seen this much money in my life. And then there's months where I'm like, are we going to make payroll? Okay, I'm not going to pay myself this month because my employees are like first priority. And that's the
Yeah.
life of an entrepreneurship. So it can't be just about money, right? Because sometimes that is in flux. So I'm just, going back to like, I had that intent starting the business that like I wanted this lifestyle. Now, when it comes to money, I'm not a money expert, but here's what I can tell you from my experience. When I built this business, I had no money. I had $100. I was completely in debt. I was going through a divorce where I lost everything. I was only married for 3 weeks. I lost my entire like savings, my job, everything because of the divorce. And both of my parents just died. So I was turning 32. I had $100. I just buried my second parent, going through a divorce, didn't have a job, didn't have a car, and I was buying my groceries at the 99-cent store. And my budget was like $23 a month to get food. Okay. So I'm
I
telling,
appreciate you sharing that because it gives people a real perspective on where you're. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. And so when I started the business, I started it out of a hospital when my mom was passing away. And I started building this business. And today, because of the skills that we talked about, self-confidence, emotional intelligence, learning how to communicate with influence, today I'm happy to say that we're 1.9% of the female owned businesses in all of North America that make seven figures or more. So let me
Wow.
rephrase that. Only 1.9% of businesses that are run by women ever hit seven figures or beyond in all of North America. And we're a part of that, right? And it's not because I had investors. I don't have any partners in the company, but it's because of the soft skills that I used on myself that we now teach today. And so for money, I was in debt for a long time. And then I was like, okay, like I got to figure out how to be financially fit and like to have financial literacy. And so once I started to get the business on track, I started learning. I started learning from Dave Ramsey. I started learning from, I can't remember his name, but he wrote a really good book. He's a younger guy, and it's like he had a Netflix documentary series.
For me?
Yes,
Seti?
yes, yes. What's the book
Yeah.
called? Uh,
I will teach
How
you to
to
be rich.
Get Rich or
Or
something.
I will teach you to be rich. I think it's
Yeah,
that one.
yeah, something of that sort. I read that book and I just started executing. I was like, okay, so when I pay myself, I'm going to take this much percentage, I'm going to put it in my savings. And then like I have this credit card that's maxed out because I only had $100, but it has a 29% interest rate. I'm going to roll it over to this credit card that's 0% interest rate and then pay that off as fast as possible. So like I started to just read and educate myself. There's no magic pill, Jordan. I just was like, okay, like
No,
I gotta educate myself. So I
it
started
really,
reading and
no, no, but I appreciate that because then it lets everyone know that it's possible. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And it doesn't have to be this big swing that's like, hey, I went from $100 to 10,000 to 100,000 to like it's
yeah,
steps. It's a
100%.
process. And I
That's
want everyone
exactly what
to
it is.
realize that we're all like it's also a skill and it's a habit that you keep building where it's like, okay, I got paid. I'm gonna take 10% for later me. Later me will be grateful that I have
Yep,
that.
yep,
And it starts to give you this clarity where it's like, hey, I could be unemployed for 3 years and I'll still be good. And
yep,
you start to realize this stuff and you're like, okay, I'm going to make different decisions. I'm going to be in a better headspace because of that.
yeah.
And so I appreciate you sharing that. And I'm sorry to hear about your parents. Like that
Oh,
is
thank you.
a lot to handle when you start
Thank you.
looking at it and thinking about all this stuff.
Yeah,
So
thank
for
you.
you, with Edwards Consulting, we have 5 pillars. It's mental health, physical health, community service philanthropy, relationships, and spirituality. So for you, I'm going to ask you real quick. What is your mental health like today on a 1 to 10? I know we don't have a scale, but like what's it like on a 1 to 10 today and why do you think it is that? By that, I mean like is there any habits or tips or tricks that the audience could sit there and go, "Wait, she does that? I should start applying that."
Yeah, I would say 8.5. Yeah, I wouldn't give it a 10. I would give it an 8.5. And I probably would normally I would say like a 9, but today I would say 8, 8.5. And honestly, really just because the teachers went on strike. And so like there's a different I have to have a little more capacity, right? So
Yeah.
currently like I'm running this podcast and the kiddos are upstairs, you know what I mean? Like reading and studying and watching TV and whatever. I'm still running a business. I still have a team. I woke up at 6 o'clock or 5:30 in the morning to do a 6 a.m. class this morning before the kids woke up. So I would say about an 8, 8.5, just because there's a little bit more, I don't want to
There's
say
stuff going on.
stress, but yeah, there's just like more things that are happening that I'm trying to kind of like juggle.
Yeah, absolutely. So you think that the early wake up helps you?
Yeah, it depends on the day to tell you the truth. There's some days where I am just exhausted and I let myself sleep in. When I say sleep in, I mean like 6:45, 7 o'clock. Like I
Yeah,
never
yeah.
sleep past 7. And then I'll do a workout a little bit later. And then there's days like today where I'm like hell or high water. I'm waking up at 5:15 to get my 6 a.m. workout in because the rest of my day is packed. So if I
Yeah.
don't do it in the morning, like it's probably not going to happen. And so I did. I made that decision to get up early and it was still dark outside and go get my fitness time in, and I love it. It's important because for me, and some people might be able to resonate with this, when I work out, for some reason my mind doesn't think about anything but working out.
Yes.
Like my mind can't think about business. It doesn't think, it really does, it just can't. It doesn't think about anything other than like picking up the weight or running on the tread or doing the yoga.
Yeah.
So for me, it's really important to have that fitness time because my brain really does go into like basically blank and focusing on my body, which I love.
And that's the present. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So when I'm in the States, I have a pretty solid routine for the morning workouts because I ended up joining a 6 a.m. class because I
Yeah,
like that strategy because
yeah,
then you're forced to be accountable and you're like,
yeah,
okay, not gonna let them down.
yeah.
Um, but what I was doing was Muay Thai for the past year and a half.
Oh,
So
I
that
love that.
one is like they're literally punching you in the. It's okay. I'm gonna focus. There's no like you're thinking about other things because they're literally punching you. You're like,
Yeah,
okay, I'm
yeah.
not gonna get hit. But yeah, no, I absolutely agree, and I think fitness is one of the best things. So, what do you think your physical health is like on a 1 to 10?
I would say right now my physical health is like a 7, 7.5, which is pretty low. I'm healthy, don't get me wrong. Every time I go to the doctor, I'm fine. I have good stamina. but I've gained some weight and I don't like it. And so I score myself lower. The last year there was just a lot of transition, and
Of course.
I ended up just like maybe using food as comfort. And so I'm like 20 pounds heavier than my normal body weight. And so for me, like some people would look at me and be like, "Oh, you look amazing," but it's how I feel, and I feel like a little bit more tired. My joint, like I can't hold the
Yeah.
plank like I used to, and I'm like, okay, we got to get this back in shape. So currently, I'm at a 7, but I hired a trainer last week, and me and my girlfriends here in the community, we just made accountability group, and then the last week we've been like dialing it in.
On it.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. But that's what it takes sometimes. It's that change of action
yeah,
where you realize, like, hey, I want to make a change. I want to do something different. We're going to step into this.
yeah,
And so I appreciate you sharing that. And the vulnerability is huge because the other thing about physical health that becomes really interesting is like, everyone's got their own parameters of what they feel, right? So sometimes it's the look, sometimes it's the scale, sometimes it's the body mass, the body fat. Sometimes it's, hey, can I run 5 miles in an hour? Like everyone's got their own parameters.
yeah.
So sometimes when people are just like, wait, I'm like, there's a million different ways to feel good or feel different. And like you said, there's so many variables that we have that make it really challenging.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And for me, it always goes back to a why. So, like, I have my why, right? And it's a combination of all that. It's, I want to feel good in my body and not feel like, oh, like my hip hurts, I'm carrying an extra 20 pounds. I want to look great. There is a vainness to it. Like, I'm also a keynote speaker. Like, I want to be on stage and look the part. I don't want to be on stage and be like, oh, I could barely walk and talking to people about like self confidence and success. It doesn't match, right? So like even for our industry, it's important that we show like externally what's happening in our mind. And I always say like your body is the window to your belief system and your soul, right? It's a representation of how you take care of yourself. And then the third reason is I want to live a long life. Both of my parents died at 63 years old, and they died young. They weren't fat, but they had stress, and they, had disease, and they died young. And I would like to live longer.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you guys listen to that, that was like 4 or 5 empowering things that are like, I got to take action on this. So when you guys are going through this activity, if you go on your own, you need to realize that like you have to start having multiple reasons. It's not just one reason I want to look better. No, it's like I want to look sexy for my wife or my husband or whatever or a new partner or whatever you want it to be. I want people to be empowered. Like I want to inspire people. Whatever it is, you have to feel that. So now the third pillar is community service philanthropy. How do you see that in your life? Some people are present with it, some people are like, I don't really know.
Yeah, it's a good question. So I do it in a couple of different ways. First off, like the company Rise It For You, even when we made zero money, we always like gave back to nonprofits. Even like I would have people that are like, "What are you doing? You're not making any money." And I'm like, "It doesn't matter. Like I know that if we give now, like it'll always come back." And so we typically choose about 4 nonprofits a year at Rise It For You that we will support. We'll either support them from a financial perspective, or we'll do like service-based work, or we'll go and we'll get in the trenches with them, and we'll provide confidence to maybe like women that have been victims of domestic abuse. Like we'll give back in that aspect. So there's that. And then I typically like once a month I'll speak for free for an organization or a nonprofit that maybe wants to have an empowering message for their community, and I'm a paid keynote speaker, but I'll always gift one for free. So there's like certain things that I do from a philanthropic community perspective.
I just want to bring that up because most people only look at it through the financial lens. So for you to sit there and actually understand, hey, I have value. Hey, and this comes back to the self-confidence. People pay for our services. I am going to give them for free, and that is a donation because that's teaching a man
Donation.
how to fish. You know what I mean? So that's giving them it for a lifetime, and people don't realize that like sometimes you already have the skill set that people desire. So
Hmm.
even if someone's like really like, I want to learn from you, I want to, okay, come over for a day. Just watch me. Just do
Hmm.
whatever I do. And
Hmm.
that's mentoring. That's community service. Like, because you're
Yeah.
building the next group of leaders.
Yep.
So I really
Absolutely.
enjoy that you brought up that it doesn't always have to be financial, that we'll actually pick up clients like that.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think that's really
Absolutely.
awesome. Then the next this one's kind of interesting. It's relationships.
Okay.
So we can do friendships, we can do family. You can kind of deem it however you choose. But
Yep.
what do you think your relationships are on a 1 to 10?
My relationships are pretty good. I would say my relationships are like 9.5. Some of them are a 10.
How do you keep them good? How do you keep them maintained or keep them positive? Because like you mentioned, you live in a couple different places, you do a couple different things, you have a business, you have family, you have all that. How do you focus on the relationships so that you're there for them?
Well, there's
Or
different levels of relationships, right? So you
okay,
have like, let's say your close family,
okay,
my brothers, my husband, brother-in-laws, that sister-in-laws. And those are high. Those are really high scores because we communicate really well together. We love each other. We have strong family bond, strong family values, right? And then the next level would be like your close friends. And I don't have like 1,000 close friends by choice. I think most people don't, right? You have a solid community that's maybe like 4 to 10 people. And I mean, typically when you build friendships, you build people. I mean, I know for me, I build friendships with people that are like-minded but different. So like their ethos, their morale, and the foundation of who they are is the same, right? Like they want to continue to grow, they want to be better, they want to learn how to communicate well, and we want to push ourselves. And so those are really high relationships. And then underneath that is acquaintances that I don't have any acquaintances that, we have bad blood. I would say the one or two people that maybe is like not the best are people that I really don't know, right? It's like they might have
yeah.
opinions about me, but it's like I don't even know their last name or like what, much about them. And in that case, it's not something that I lose sleep over.
So you start to realize, and I'm just saying this for the audience to realize that, okay, so she's got her family, her close friends, her siblings, her close friend group. Like, you know what I mean? It's not 1,000 people. It's maybe like 20, 25. Like, you know what I mean? So you start to realize that it becomes a lot more manageable. But when everyone thinks every relationship is as equal to that, that's when you have a lot of issues, and you're
Yeah,
not
100%.
get yeah, and you'll have a major, major setback because then you're not prioritizing the people that should be prioritized or that you
Yeah.
chose.
And you're also wasting like energy by focusing on something that isn't a huge part of your life. Like, don't get me wrong, I have people that don't like me that are naysayers, but I can't tell you the first thing about them. Like, I don't know much about them. So at that point, it's like, well, that's a you problem, not a me problem. Like, I don't know you, we barely talked. So if you have certain feelings about somebody that barely knows you, then like,
That's their own problem.
that's your own problem. You got to solve that.
I think that's becoming more popularized just because people there's so many like micro people that are becoming like this the whole idea of a celebrity back in like the 1990s, 80s was just because people were on TV or movies, so people saw them more often. But with social
Yeah.
media just going bigger and bigger and bigger, people are like, I really like this person. Like I see this person, I know this person, and it's like, I've never met you, but you might have watched 3,000 hours. If you watched every episode of this podcast, you've watched me for like 300 hours. So you probably know a little bit about me, but they don't know
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And then the last pillar is spirituality. So where do you think you are on a 1 to 10 for spirituality?
Today, I would say a 9. I'm pretty connected. When you say spirituality, I also think of like religion, my faith.
I
Uh,
leave it, yeah, so I leave
uh,
it up for grabs because
yeah.
some people are like, I'm super religious, some people are like, I'm super spiritual, some people are like, in the bagel line, I like to say hi to people. That's my
Yeah.
spirituality. I don't know.
For me, it's religious and it's my faith. And I'm pretty strong in that. And I believe I have an amazing relationship with God. And so for me, like I would say between a 9 and a 10. Like I consistently pray, I consistently have conversations with, the higher being and build a relationship. That's important for me. That's actually my number one value. My number one importance is my faith and my relationship with God. My second is myself, and my third is my family. Those are my top three.
So if someone wanted to explore this relationship with God, regardless of religion or any of that, how would you say to go about it?
The first step that I used for myself is silence. Like if you want to build a relationship with yourself and with God, you gotta sit in silence. You have to become self-aware of your thoughts. You have to be able to sit in a room by yourself and enjoy the company you keep. But so many of us are distracted by external things and by social media and consumption that we don't even have time to think straight. We don't even know what's going on in our head. And so my relationship with God has been strong because I allow myself to sit in silence every morning and just talk and like become aware, like what's in my head, how do I feel? And I've also gone through a lot in my life. And again, back to parents, like they always taught me, like, don't question God, like there's a plan. So when my parents died and I was like completely devastated and like depressed and shocked, like I kept saying to myself, like, thank you, God, for the quality of parents you gave me. Thank you. Like I kept thanking God for the quality, even though in my heart I was like crushed because I lost them. But I kept going back to like my faith and thanking him for what he did give me, which was like two phenomenal parents, where I could have like deterred from my faith and been like, life sucks and like this is, this is going nowhere. But when you have faith, you reminded like there's always a bigger plan and there's always a bigger something that you don't know right now. And that's okay. You don't have to have all the answers.
I really appreciate that because it's becoming more and more things that people need to start valuing. So I appreciate you sharing that. It's sad, but it's the end of the podcast. Where can people learn more about you?
Thank you. So for the company is called Rise Up For You, completely spelled out. You can go to riseupforyou.com and right at the top there's a button that says free resources. There's a ton of free stuff. We have a self-confidence quiz, an emotional intelligence quiz. There's free classes on confidence and emotional intelligence and leadership, so you can grab it there. Also on social media, Rise Up For You. We're on every channel. And then if you want to connect with me personally, it's Nada Nasserdeen. Jordan, I'm sure you could put my handle in the
Yes,
show notes. And I'm very active on Instagram and LinkedIn, and I run my own LinkedIn and Instagram. So if you send me a message, I will definitely reach back out to you.
absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.